Hello, everyone, and welcome to another How Lou Sees It review. I do apologize, man. It has been a while since I've done a video review. I'm ready to get back into it. I got a huge stack of games to get through, and just gonna hit these out. So, Button Shy Games coming out with another solid wallet-sized game, Hierarchy. Designed by Hugo Kawamata. Do apologize if I mispronounced your name there, Hugo. But very, very interesting game. And looking at, I think, like 17 cards, 14 really the gameplay of this game. So Button Shy has been just coming out producing really, really solid wallet-sized games. These mini games with very few cards, and you view them as micro games, whatever they are, but they focus on these card games, and really, really interesting. I'm a little late on this. You have like 30 hours probably by the time I post this that it's on Kickstarter for 30 more hours. Well overfunded right now already, so that's awesome. Glad to see that. And they're almost at like 900 backers for this game. So, and if you like Button Shy games, I think you will enjoy this one. I will say, I've kind of enjoyed some of the other spatial ones better, but that's probably more of a personal preference. I'm going to show you some of the cards, a little bit of the gameplay. But really, this is an abstract kind of strategy game for 2 players, and it's open information, and it's all about the power of the card and the order that you play them. Okay, so very, very interesting. What the game comes with is it's going to come with 14 cards that are double-sided. That make up really the game play. Okay, so we have 1 through 13 and the imposter here. No number assigned, and that comes with the ability of the imposter. But there are 14 cards, and game setup very, very simple. You're going to shuffle these cards all up and deal out 7 to each player. Then when they get them, you may have mismatched colors, whatever. You're going to flip them all over to one color, one side. Okay, so we have purple. They flip all of their cards to purple, and this person's gonna flip all their cards to like the gold color. All right, and from there, the person with the imposter goes first, and they're simply going to find a card that they can play into the line. Okay, basically, we're just gonna start a line of cards here. Okay, so in general, you're looking at the numbers. So I play a 5. You got to play a card higher than a 5. Okay, well, I got the knight. Okay, then we're going to come over here. Well, I got this, the usurper. And then I go, well, I have the dragon. Okay, it's not that simple. Okay, so yes, generally you're going to be looking at the number, and that's going to be a restriction there. You have to play a number that's higher than that to play a card on top. The whole goal of this game is to play a card on top of the line that makes it so your opponent cannot play a card. And that usually will be, in my experience, this person has cards still in their hand. They just cannot play it because of restrictions on this card or restrictions on the text of the cards that you have in your hand. Other than that, if you run out of cards, if your opponent runs out of cards and you play a card, obviously they can't play a card on top of that. That also is a win condition for the other player because you cannot play a card. Okay, so basically this game really is about understanding the interactions of the cards with their abilities, and understanding when do I want to play this card, and how do I set up this card, because what's going to happen is, just like in chess, you can think a few moves ahead. If I play this card, that's going to restrict them. They're not going to be able to play these few cards. That limits them to a few others. What card are they going to play? Can I respond to those other cards that they have in their hand? Because you want to be looking for that, because if you play a card and you're forcing them to play one of the other cards that makes it so you can't play a card, you just lost the game, right? So you have to be thinking ahead. So there's a lot of strategy to it. And honestly, it's one of those things where I think this game is enjoyable, where you just get into it and start playing. So you go over those basic rules. You got to play the number, but we also have to pay attention to the abilities on the cards. They may have different restrictions. And then you just get into it. And then as you go, you start realizing the strength of certain cards or the weaknesses of cards, and the order of maybe how you want to play the cards. And again, the 14 cards, you're going to shuffle those up 7 and 7. The games are going to be a little bit different each time, right? Even if it's just one card, even if like I didn't have the sorcerer this round, but I had the king, that may make a huge difference in how I play the game, as well as the order. If I lead with a certain card and their response to that, that can be a whole different set of cards that will be played in response to those. So last thing, I just want to show you some of, I keep mentioning these abilities and these interactions. I do want to show you some of the abilities real quick. So like the sorcerer is very interesting because cards in hand have no abilities. Okay. So if I play with the sorcerer, I have just restricted everything basically to the number. Okay. In that's a very, very powerful card if played at the right time, right? Because these abilities are usually pretty powerful. Now, the other thing to note, though, is some of these abilities, so to speak, are actually restrictions. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at some other ones here. This one's can be played atop the Baroness. Now, that is actually a very helpful ability. Well, I don't know, very helpful. But as you can see, the Baroness here is 10. But the dragon, even though it's lower than the 10, can actually be played on top of the Baroness. Okay. So there's that. The dragon and knight have something similar. Okay, so the dragon is 9, but the knight is a 6. But the knight could go on top of the dragon. So there's that type of ability, and I guess that's one thing that I also really appreciate about the game is these little abilities still are thematic as can be for this type of game. Like, yeah, a knight killing the dragon makes sense, right? Or the dragon and the Baroness, like Baroness, I guess, kind of view that as a princess. Maybe I'm wrong, but that seems to make sense. The assassin here can be played atop any card. Yeah, the assassin's going to take him out, right? Except for the tower and the leper. Well, that makes sense. The, assassin can't kill a tower, and the assassin doesn't want to get near the leper. So that makes sense, right? The king can only be played when the line has 7 or more cards in it. Very, very big number card, right? Basically be played on anything. But if there's 6 cards, I can't play this card. It's restricted that way. So very powerful, but it has a restriction. This one can only be played if the Baroness is in it. So again, a very high number, but a restriction. The tower, while being a number 4, I can discard a different card, actually remove it. And again, that could be a little risky, right? Because if I run out of cards before my opponent and I don't have a card to play, I'm going to lose. But if I do that, if I discard another card, I can play this on top any other card except a leper. and there has to be one other card in play. This also counts as 2 cards. So the tower being very tall, right? And we're talking about like height or, power or different things like that. A little bit thematic there as well, right? It's going to add, this counts as 2 cards. So that's going to come into play when we're looking at like the king, right? What else do we got? The surf counts as a 7 after it has been played. So this one's really interesting too, right? Because if I can play this, I'm going to, if I had the leper, say the leper was down here, and I play the surf, because it's a 3, I can do that. Now, I was able to play it because this is higher than the 2, and now this is a 7. That has to be treated as a 7. What else we got going on? The usurper must be played atop a card with a higher value. A card with a lower value must be played atop of this. So he is a usurper, right? He kind of wants to upend everything, upend the order of everything, and goes that route. Can only be played atop the knight, serf, or royalty. You got the high priest there. Some other restrictions. The imposter. We'll go ahead and show you this as the last card here, because it doesn't have a number. This one, you play this as a copy of any card already played by your opponent except the top card. So it has to be of their color in the line, but you could copy it. Okay, and that's very, very interesting too. If the sorcerer goes down, this card isn't anything. Like, there's no number associated with it. So there are some very interesting interactions, as you can see from the cards. 17 cards included in this base game, if you will. 14 there, and then 2 reference cards, and then like there's this card to kind of separate the line from any cards that would be discarded. And I have not had the chance to play, there's like a little solo variant, or a solo expansion that I've noticed on Kickstarter there. And I think it's usually like going to be retail $6, but I think it's included. So if you go on the Kickstarter, $10 get you this really cool game, and the little solo expansion as well. Pretty sweet deal. Really, really just I keep being impressed by Button Shy. And their production of these little wallet line sized games. And this is a really, really interesting one. For me, personally, like Circle of the Wagons is just still my favorite Button Shy game. But this offers some really interesting strategic choices of looking at your power, the higher number cards that you have, when to play those, look at the abilities, and just the order of how all these cards are played and interact with one another is really, really interesting to see unfold. So if this looks like something that you'd be interested in, go ahead and check it out on Kickstarter. Like 30 hours left. If you don't see this video till later, go ahead and go on their website. You can contact them to see where production is with the game. But you may be able to do some like pre-order or whatever it is. Check out their website, get in contact with them, let them know that you want the game. But yeah, that is Hierarchy, and that is how Lou sees it.